Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Mark Lynn. Namaskar. Coming up in the next hour. The 77th session of the World Health Assembly kicks off in Geneva in Switzerland. India and Mauritius hold bilateral meet. Jan Aushadhi Kendra in Mauritius to be made functional. India's Finance Minister Sitharaman says Modi government reshaped union budget in the last 10 years. It is now a strategic blueprint for equitable distribution. US lawmaker assures Taiwan of his country's support, says China's intimidating drills show they are not interested in peace. Beijing tells the US to stay out of Taipei's affairs.
America is, and always will be, a reliable partner, and no amount of coercion or intimidation will slow down or stop the routine visits by the Congress to Taiwan.
China, Japan and South Korea reaffirm common interest in North Korea's denuclearization. Pyongyang calls it a grave political provocation and sovereignty violation. In an interview to a prominent news agency, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi opened up for the first time on the Congress leader Rahul Gandhi and the Aam Aadmi Party leader Arvind Kejriwal receiving endorsements from Pakistan. Let's listen.
चुनाव भारत का है और भारत का लोकतंत्र बहुत ही मैच्योर्ड है, तंदुरुस्त परंपराएं हैं और भारत के मतदाता भी बाहर की किसी भी हरकतों से प्रभावित होने वाले मतदाता नहीं है। मैं नहीं जानता हूं कि कुछ ही लोग हैं जिनको हमारे साथ दुश्मनी रखने वाले लोग क्यों पसंद करते हैं, कुछ ही लोग हैं जिनके समर्थन में आवाज़ वहाँ से क्यों उठती है। अब ये बहुत बड़ी जांच पड़ताल का या गंभीर विषय है और मुझे नहीं लगता है कि मुझे जिस पद पर मैं बैठा हूँ वहाँ से ऐसे विषयों पर कोई कमेंट करनी चाहिए।
The Prime Minister also talked about, in the interview, the government's fight against corruption and the basis of fact and not perception. He was critical of what he calls, quote-unquote, the Khan market gang, for creating a narrative to protect people whom the Prime Minister has called corrupt.
हम बद इरादे से कुछ नहीं करेंगे, जो भी होगा हमारी सूचना यही है, जीरो टॉलरेंस। दूसरा, तथ्यों के आधार पर ही एक्शन होना चाहिए, परसेप्शन के आधार पर नहीं होना चाहिए। तथ्य जुटाने में मेहनत करनी पड़ती है। अब अफसरों ने मेहनत भी की, अब मगरमच्छ पकड़े जाने लगे हैं तो हमें सवाल पूछा जा रहा है कि मगरमच्छों को क्यों पकड़ते हो। ये समझ में नहीं आता है कि कौन सा गैंग है, खान मार्केट गैंग, जो कुछ लोगों को बचाने के लिए इस प्रकार के नैरेटिव घड़ती है। पहले आप ही कहते थे छोटों को पकड़ते हो, बड़े छूट जाते हैं। जब सिस्टम ईमानदारी से काम करने लगी, बड़े लोग पकड़े जाने लगे, तो अब आप चिल्लाने लगे हो।
The 77th session of the World Health Assembly began on Monday in Geneva in Switzerland. The meeting brings together global health officials, including officials from India. The opening ceremony was held in the presence of the WHO's Director General, Dr. Tedros Ghebreyesus, along with delegates from across the globe. This year, the theme is All for Health, Health for All, wherein global officials and experts discuss current and future priorities for public health issues of global importance. India will showcase its success stories in the healthcare sector. India will also display its Arogya Maitri Disaster Management Cube, an indigenous portable hospital for emergencies. Now, India and Mauritius have held a bilateral meeting on the sidelines of the 77th World Health Assembly in Geneva, and both sides agreed to expedite the regulatory process to make the Jan Aushadhi Kendra established in Mauritius functional. Both sides agreed to cooperate in areas of digital health and capacity building of health workforce. They agreed to promote health and wellness with particular focus on traditional systems of medicine and yoga. Earlier, India also held a bilateral meeting with Japan on the sidelines of the 77th World Health Assembly. Both sides agreed to expand the areas of collaboration to digital health, the use of AI in health, elderly care, and also non-communicable diseases. Let's take a look at various health initiatives that India has taken in the past 10 years.
Transformative changes in India's healthcare sector brought about by the Digital India program has made revolutionary changes in the lives of the common people. Initiatives such as Ayushman Bharat Digital Mission, Cowin app, Arogya Setu, e-Sanjeevani and e-Hospital are revolutionizing healthcare, making it accessible for everyone in the country. These initiatives bridge gaps among stakeholders in the healthcare ecosystem through digital highways. Ayushman Bharat Digital Mission aims to create a national digital health ecosystem supporting universal health coverage. This ecosystem aims to be efficient, accessible, inclusive, affordable, timely and safe. Central to Ayushman Bharat Digital Mission is the Ayushman Bharat Health Account or ABHA. With over 34.45 crore ABHA numbers created, this hassle-free method allows users to access and share their health records digitally. Government has also launched Arogya Setu for facilitating seamless interaction. Initially launched as a COVID-19 contact tracing app, Arogya Setu has now evolved into a comprehensive national health app powered by the Ayushman Bharat Digital Mission. It allows users to receive digital lab reports, prescriptions and diagnose from various verified professionals. Arogya Setu also integrates with the e-Sanjeevani OPD application, enabling users to schedule online doctor appointments and consult from the comfort of their homes. Over 34.45 crore Ayushman cards have been created with more than 6.86 crore authorized hospital admissions. Additionally, 29,904 hospitals are empaneled under this initiative, demonstrating the intensive reach and impact of these digital health services. Tutu Tripathi for DD India.
Let's get you the latest now on the largest election in India. As the election concluded its sixth phase, leaders have now intensified their campaign for the seventh phase of polls. 57 constituencies spread across 8 states and union territories will go to the polls on the 1st of June. Now, the election results for all the phases, the 7 phases, will be announced on June 4. 13 seats each in Uttar Pradesh and Punjab, 9 in West Bengal, 8 in Bihar, 6 in Odisha, 4 in Himachal Pradesh, 3 in Jharkhand and 1 seat in the union territory of Chandigarh will go to the polls in the last phase. The BJP leader and Home Minister Amit Shah campaigned in Kushinagar in Uttar Pradesh and addressed rallies in Bhalia and Gosaipur in Uttar Pradesh on Monday. The BJP leader JP Nadda was in Varanasi, where he held a convention and also met locals. For its part, the opposition is also making a last-ditch effort to reach out to the voters. The Congress President Mallikarjun Kharge, as well as the Congress leader Rahul Gandhi, campaigned in Odisha's Balasore. Rahul Gandhi also held rallies in Bihar. The Congress General Secretary Priyanka Gandhi addressed multiple public meetings in Himachal Pradesh on Monday. The quaint village of Birsinga in East Midnapur district of West Bengal echoes with history that resonates through the life and teachings of one of India's greatest reformers, Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar. Our correspondent Dibyendu Mandal brings you a ground report from the ancestral village of the great social reformer. Let's look at this special report.
This is the ancestral village of one of the greatest social reformers of India, the home of Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar. Born in 1820, this humble abode holds the memories of Vidyasagar's early life, where he embarked on a journey that would reshape the course of Indian society. Vidyasagar is revered across India for his emancipation of women's rights. His fight against the then orthodox society to change the pitiful life of women was groundbreaking. His fight against child marriage and for widow remarriage shaped how societies functioned then. His crusade for the widow remarriage led to the enactment of the Widow Remarriage Act of 1856, a pivotal moment for Indian social reform.
This is birthplace of Vidyasagar. This is where he was born and raised as a young child. He has made immense contribution towards the Bengali society, especially for the women. If he does not exist, the condition of women in Bengal would have been very different. He worked for the upliftment of women and also transformed the education system of Bengal to make it equitable and accessible for all.
Vidyasagar's literary contribution to the Bengali language still resonate in the Bengali education system. His strive for the simplification of the language and the introduction of the iconic Borno Porichoy has still today become the first book for every child wanting to learn the Bengali language. It revolutionized the education system. Ishwar Chandra's relentless pursuit for knowledge also earned him the title Vidyasagar, which means the ocean of knowledge.
Many of the items used by Vidyasagar are kept in this museum. Some of the books used by him are also kept here. Apart from this trunk which he used to send money to his village, wallet, paperweight and a pair of tooth are kept here. There are 4 rooms here displaying all these.
The ancestral home of Vidyasagar displays his life and teachings, flocked by eminent personalities and academicians throughout the year. This redeveloped complex gives a glimpse of history into the life of a great man that strived to change education and society during the tumultuous time of the colonial rule. This man has left an indelible mark in the hearts of millions of Bengalis. His teachings and fights against the superstitious customs of the society, even during the British era, have inspired generations to come. Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar continues to inspire millions of Bengalis and for generations. With Camperson PK, this is Dibyendu Model from Bir Singh Gram in Ghatal, West Bengal for DD India.
Well, Kolkata is often called the cultural centre of India. It's set to vote in the final phase of general elections, and West Bengal has 42 seats in Parliament. Let's learn more about the city and what's at stake in these elections. DD India's Shubhendu Ghosh reports.
Where the mind is without fear and the head is held high, where the world has not been broken up into fragments by narrow domestic walls, into that heaven of freedom, let my country awake. Gurudev Rabindranath Tagore in Gitanjali presents a vision of free and aspirational India, a vision that the nation must engage with as it votes in the world's largest democratic elections. We are at Gurudev's ancestral home in Jorashakho, Thakurbari in West Bengal. It's a museum now. Welcome to Kolkata, the city of joy. Once a center of colonial power, Kolkata distinguished itself with a leading role in India's freedom movement. In a rapidly changing world, the city still hangs on to its gentle pace of life. Today, Kolkata is an important hub of trade and commerce, and also art and intellectual pursuits. Breathtaking variety of sweets, from the humble Rasgulla to the heavenly Sandesh, have carried the sweetness of Bengali culture to farthest corners of the nation and the world. West Bengal has 42 seats in parliament and is voting across all 7 phases of the elections.
নির্বাচনের তো অবশ্যই প্রয়োজনীয়তা রয়েছে, ভোটের প্রয়োজন রয়েছে, আর গণতন্ত্র এটা প্রায় 130 কোটির দেশ, গণতন্ত্রকে বাঁচিয়ে রাখার জন্য মানে মানুষের ইচ অ্যান্ড এভরি পিপল মানে যারা ভোটার তাদের অপিনিয়নটা খুব দরকার।
আমাদের মনোমতো লোক আসুক, যাকে আমরা সুযোগ্য মনে করি, এটা তো আমাদের এক্সপেকটেশন এবং আমরা চাইছি সেটা, যিনি আসবেন মানুষের জন্য কাজ করবেন।
Mamata Banerjee's Trinamool Congress has dominated the political landscape of Bengal after uprooting the left rule over a decade ago. But under leadership of Prime Minister Modi, BJP has made steady inroads into Bengal, especially in national politics. For the Congress and the left, it is a battle for survival. While Bengal is often referred to as the sweetest part of India, it may not be true for its political culture. Political violence has been normalized here. Many lives have been lost and destroyed in the game of power. So much that one believes that these elections are not just about the future of Bengal, but its very identity. With camera person Saurabh De, Shubhendu Ghosh, Kolkata, DD India.
But still to come here on DD India News Hour. A bipartisan delegation of lawmakers in the United States have reached Taipei to discuss US-Taiwan relations. EU foreign ministers meet in Brussels to discuss Ukraine conflict and the situation in the Middle East. The French President Emmanuel Macron lays a wreath at Berlin's Holocaust Memorial in Germany.
Complex issues, hidden agendas, twists and turns, strategic games. We think all dots are linked. We just need to connect them. Join me every week as I connect the dots to unravel hidden designs in statecraft, mysteries, and decode issues that matter to you. Watch Connecting the Dots with me at these times on DD India.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Mark Lynn. Israel's military operation in Rafah sparks controversy as civilian casualties raise concerns. The Israeli authorities have vowed an investigation amidst reports of collateral damage. Meanwhile, the EU plans to revive border mission, while Spain, Ireland and Norway consider recognizing Palestine, and that's all amid the renewed conflict. Here's a report.
Israel has announced its recent military operation targeting a Hamas compound in Rafah and said operation was conducted within the bounds of international law against legitimate targets.
Yesterday, Hamas terrorists fired 8 rockets from Rafah towards central Israeli cities. Had the Iron Dome not intercepted them, they could have caused mass casualties. The rockets were fired 800 meters away from IDF troops operating in the area. As the IDF troops approached, Hamas fired from within their civilian population, between a mosque and a school. We struck and destroyed the launcher shortly after the launch. This is Hamas's method of carrying out terrorist activities under the cover of their own civilian population against the civilians of the State of Israel. A double war crime.
On one hand, the European Union is poised to move forward with plans to revive its border mission in Rafah. The EU Border Assistance Mission Rafah has not been operational since 2007, following Hamas's complete seizure of control in Gaza. The EU's foreign policy chief has indicated that the bloc aims to reach a consensus to proceed with the mission.
From my side, I will put on the table a proposal to relaunch our civilian border system mission, IBAN Rafah. If it is useful, we have been asked to do that. If we could, we'll do it. But taking into account that everything has to be on the direction of taking the Palestinian Authority to take responsibilities on Gaza.
On the other hand, Spain, Ireland and Norway have made a joint declaration calling for a new approach to the Israel-Hamas conflict. The three countries are preparing to formally recognize the Palestinian state and have issued a statement ahead of their decision.
The international community, including the European Union, have been talking about support for the two-state solution based on the 1967 borders for decades. But we are no nearer to actually getting to that desired end state. And we firmly believe that without changing our approach, we will never get there.
Amidst the recent Israeli operation in Rafah, which stirred civilian outcry globally, humanitarian aid efforts persist, with the European Union considering to revive border mission.
The European Union citizens are going to be voting from the 6th of June to the 9th of June. They're choosing 720 members of the next European Parliament who will serve for 5 years. The campaign season for the election opened in France on Monday. The European Parliament is one of the 3 EU institutions that run the 27-nation bloc. Together with the EU governments, the Parliament decides on laws proposed by the European Commission which govern policies and the EU market of almost 450 million people. France's President Emmanuel Macron is in Germany for a 3-day visit, followed by a bilateral meeting. As the European Union's 2 biggest powers, they seek to show unity ahead of next month's EU parliamentary election. Along with German President, Macron laid a wreath at the Berlin Holocaust Memorial. Macron's trip is the first by a French president in 24 years. Macron warned against a slackening of support for Ukraine in its defense against Russia.
To be on the side of peace today means giving strength to the law peace, but not capitulation. Peace is not an abandonment of principles. We have too often seen this confusion in collective debates. Peace means enabling a country to defend its borders and sovereignty. International law to build a lasting peace is the camp we have chosen, that of the law for the long term.
Well, and for more on this story, Ross Cullen is now joining us from Paris with an update. Ross, looking at the parliamentary election for Europe, how does this election affect, France's as well as Germany's internal politics?
Well, we're seeing at the moment Emmanuel Macron on that state visit, the first time in some 20 plus years that a French president is on an official state visit to Germany, welcomed by the German president, Frank-Walter Steinmeier. And they have got a lot on the agenda planned, but it is also being seen as a campaign event because Emmanuel Macron will be hoping to reach out to French and German young voters. He's going to make a speech in German a little bit later on, going to Dresden, spending time in Berlin, going to the Holocaust Memorial, a lunch as well with different personalities in Germany. So lots of campaigning as well and reinforcing that relationship, as you say, between the two countries that are seen as the European Union's engine, France and Germany, the 2 biggest economies in the European Union. Both of them are hoping that they will be able to survive the challenges to their parties in the European Union election from the far right, the AfD in Germany and the National Rally here in France. Both of those parties polling quite well ahead of the vote on the 9th of June, and they will be hoping, the governments of Olaf Scholz and Emmanuel Macron, to be able to soften the losses that they might receive from the votes that are going to the far right.
So Ross, help us understand, how Europe chooses its leaders through this election, because I presume that Germany and France have the highest number of seats in the European Parliament. But they don't go, en masse to one particular, they don't go to, let's say, Macron's party or the party in power in Germany, isn't it? It could go to anyone.
Yeah, Germany, you're right. Germany has the highest number of seats in terms of the members of the European Parliament. France is the second highest based on population as well. And then Italy also has more than 70 MEPs it sends to Brussels. So in terms of the votes, it's very much like a national election. All the parties that would run at national level in France or national level in Germany, like the Socialists or the Christian Democrats or the Alternative for Germany, the other side of the border, and then over here, Emmanuel Macron's Renaissance Party, the Socialists, the Republicans, the far right, all those regular parties are running again, and you can vote for them. We do often see the protest vote, the opposition vote, being able to get more attention in the European Union elections. They're falling almost like a United States midterm election in the middle of the French parliamentary term, in the middle of the French presidential term. We don't have a national election or a presidential election on the horizon, and so you can get a chance to, if you are disillusioned with the government, make a protest vote, for example. So we are likely to see the French far right win the election in terms of the greatest number of MEPs to be sent from France to Brussels to work in the European Parliament. However, it's also likely that the centre-right as a whole, all of European Union centre-right parties, will receive hundreds of MEPs. So the greatest number of MEPs in total will be from the centre-right. So it's unlikely that the far-right parties, even though they might have success in sending a lot of MPs, won't send the most number of MEPs. That's usually the centre-right blocs across the European Union who send those to Brussels. So these elections are also a chance for the populations in places like Germany and France to show their disillusionment with the government of the day, but they won't be able to change the government of the day in that particular country, just sending those MEPs to Brussels.
Ross Cullen in Paris, thanks very much. The EU foreign ministers met Arab counterparts in Brussels on Monday to discuss the security situation in West Asia or the Middle East. The European Union aims to agree in principle to press ahead with an EU border mission in Rafah, a city in the southern Gaza Strip abutting Egypt. The bloc's foreign policy chief, Josep Borrell, had said so, and the bloc is considering reviving its European Union border assistance mission in Rafah, which has not been operational since 2007. Following a two-day large-scale military exercise by China surrounding Taiwan, a bipartisan delegation of U.S. lawmakers arrived in Taipei to hold talks on U.S.-Taiwan relations with the newly sworn President Lai Ching-te's administration. The U.S. lawmakers said that China's intimidating war games underscored the need to boost the island's deterrence abilities, and the U.S. will do everything possible. On the other hand, China tells the United States to stay out of Taiwan's affairs. Raghav Jha reports.
This video showing Chinese warships sailing close to Taiwanese naval ships was released by China's Eastern Theater Command on Monday. It's a part of China's military drills around the self-ruled island. Taiwan's National Defense Ministry detected 21 Chinese military aircraft, 11 naval and 4 Coast Guard vessels near its territory on Monday. 10 out of the 21 Chinese military aircraft even entered Taiwan's Air Defense Identification Zone. In response, Taiwan also deployed naval vessels and coastal missiles. Meanwhile, a bipartisan U.S. delegation headed by the Republican chair of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, Michael McCaul, arrived in Taipei on Sunday for a week of talks. After meeting the delegation, Taiwan's President Lai Ching-te said that the Taiwanese people will leave no stone unturned to ensure the security of their homeland.
In the future, I will promote the reform of the parliament, enhance national defense capability, and show the world the determination of the Taiwanese people to defend their homeland.
On the other hand, visiting U.S. delegation head Michael McCaul assured Taiwan that the required U.S. weapons in view of China's drills are finally on their way, and that China's intimidating war games last week underscored the need to boost the island's deterrence abilities.
I will say President Lai and I, as always, had a very sobering and yet very direct conversation about the threat that this island faces from its neighbor to the north, and it's a real one. And without deterrence, Chairman Xi has bold and aggressive ambitions, and we just need to do everything we can to make it possible for him to see that the risk outweighs the reward.
China's foreign ministry on Monday asked the US to stay out of Taiwan affairs.
China is firmly opposed to this, has lodged solemn representations with the United States, and will take necessary measures to resolutely safeguard national sovereignty and territorial integrity.
Over the past 4 years, China has staged regular military activities, including large-scale war games around Taiwan, as it seeks to build pressure on the island's government. Raghav Kumar Jha reports for DD India.
Well, China, Japan and South Korea have reaffirmed the denuclearization of North Korea and the stability of the Korean Peninsula after a rare trilateral summit in Seoul in 4 years. The leaders made efforts to revitalize the three-party free trade agreement negotiations, which had been stalled since 2019. Let's look at this report.
In a significant move to rekindle cooperation amid global tensions, leaders from China, Japan and South Korea convened a summit in Seoul for their first trilateral talks in 4 years. The summit saw South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol, Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida and Chinese Premier Li Qiang call for an increased collaboration on trade and security issues, issuing a joint statement emphasizing the need for greater cooperation among the Asian neighbors.
We should adhere to openness and inclusiveness and gather more momentum for cooperation in line with the principles of non-exclusivity and non-discrimination. We will promote the comprehensive resumption of cooperation among China, Japan and South Korea with an open attitude and transparent measures.
Japanese Prime Minister Kishida highlighted the importance of addressing global concerns such as the North Korean threat, condemning Pyongyang's plans to launch a satellite which would violate United Nations resolutions.
Last night, North Korea once again gave notice to its intention to launch another satellite. But even if it were to successfully launch it, it would be a breach of United Nations resolution, and we strongly urge North Korea to cancel.
The leaders collectively reaffirmed that North Korea's denuclearization and the Korean Peninsula's stability are in their common interest.
We reaffirmed that the denuclearization of North Korea and the stability of the Korean Peninsula are in common interest of our three nations. I also requested that the two leaders continue to provide assistance for the immediate resolution of the abduction issue and expressed their understanding.
About 20 South Korean aircrafts, including F-35 fighter jets, conducted attack drills on Monday after North Korea announced plans to launch the satellite. Meanwhile, North Korea decried the trilateral declaration as a grave political provocation and sovereignty violation. In addition to security discussions, the summit focused on economic collaboration with an agreement to accelerate negotiation for a trilateral free trade agreement and maintain open markets to prevent supply chain disruptions.
We should swiftly resume the Korea-Japan-China free trade agreement negotiations, which have been suspended since 2019 to upgrade the foundation of economic cooperation.
This pivotal summit follows a series of bilateral meetings where leaders discussed key issues, including Taiwan and future economic dialogue, highlighting a renewed commitment to regional stability and cooperation. Bureau Report, DD India.
Still to come here on DD India News Hour. India's finance minister says that the union budget has been reshaped into a strategic blueprint for equitable distribution in the last 10 years. Lithuania's Nausėda has claimed victory in the presidential election.
We just don't bring you the news as it unfolds. We get to the heart of the matter.
We don't just present facts. We demystify complex social, political and economic events.
We break stories that shape the world's present and future because you deserve the truth.
I am Tanvi Taneja from New Delhi.
I'm Ollie Barrett from London.
I'm Nick Harper from Washington, D.C.
Join us on DD India Global Monday to Friday at these times.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Mark Lynn. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman of India said that the Modi government has reshaped the union budget in the last 10 years from a mere record of expenditure to a strategic blueprint for equitable distribution. In a series of posts on X.com, the finance minister said that the Modi government has prioritized transparency in its budgeting practices and in its numbers. India's economic health has led to improved global trust as well. Let's take a look at this report.
Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman emphasized the transformation of the union budget over the past decade from a mere expenditure record to a strategic roadmap for equitable distribution. Under the Modi government, there has been a concerted effort to maximize the value of taxpayers' money by ensuring transparency and fiscal prudence. This commitment to transparency not only enhances domestic credibility but also improves the country's standing with international organizations like the IMF and World Bank.
Social justice was mostly a political slogan. For our government, social justice is an effective and necessary governance model. The saturation approach of covering all eligible people is the true and comprehensive achievement of social justice.
Finance Minister Sitharaman pointed out the disparity of only Rs 500 crore allocated over the years despite a significant rise in the centre's budgetary expenditures. This constraint was particularly evident during the challenging times of the COVID-19 pandemic. Subsequently, the corpus has been augmented to Rs 30,000 crore in FY22, addressing the need for a substantial increase to meet evolving demands.
Economy is a system of mutual dependencies. That is why when an economy goes into a funk, you need exogenous shocks to lift it out of the funk, which normally comes from fiscal stimulus, because the fiscal authorities, given their ability to tax, or the monetary authorities, given their ability to print money, or external demand, or the factors that do not necessarily fall within this closed loop system. And these are considered exogenous factors that can once in a while be applied to lift economies out of downturns.
A recent OECD report has revised its economic growth forecast for India upwards, predicting a growth rate of 6.6% for 2024-25 compared to its earlier projection of 6.2%. India's economic growth optimism has been a matter of pride for Indians living abroad.
10 years ago, we were the 11th largest economy in the world. A decade later, we are the 5th. I find it embarrassing to tell others that we are going to overtake them and will be 3rd.
Like OECD, respected institutions like the World Bank, IMF, ADB, Moody's, Morgan Stanley and S&P Global have all raised their growth projections for the Indian economy, ranging from 6.6% to 7%. This positive outlook underscores confidence in India's economic path and policy measures. Bureau Report, DD India.
And Anil Padmanabhan, Senior Economic Affairs Journalist, is joining us to throw more light on this subject. Mr. Padmanabhan, thanks for being with us. Why has the budget, become more important now that we look at it through what the Finance Minister said, since, we've moved away from the planning commission kind of model?
See, Mark, a few things have happened in the last decade. One is, the implementation of the GST. So with the implementation of the GST, a large chunk of revenue raising capability has now got pooled between center and states. So it's no longer either in the center's realm or in the state's realm, but in the collective realm. So in that sense, the union budget got that much more diminished. But what it did is it prioritized expenditure. And what this government has done in the last decade is they've done a bunch of things, like the FM rightly said. They did introduce transparency. In fact, she cleaned the books of all her predecessors and bought a lot of off-budget items on budget, which is very important, because what used to happen was the borrowings were hidden outside the normal purview unless you went behind the budget, which experienced people can figure. But now she's made it transparent, and in that sense, anybody can view these accounts. What you see is what you get. Okay. Now, these two things combined with the fact that we have had unprecedented economic shocks, beginning with COVID-19, the onset of the Russia-Ukraine conflict, and of course, the Fed increasing interest rates so rapidly. So as a result, these economic shocks impacted livelihood and lives in India, and the budget became the central policy point of response for this government. And the way they managed the fisc and dovetailed it with monetary policy, working closely with the Reserve Bank of India, is exactly why India survived the economic shocks and has now recovered, like you rightly pointed out, to among one of the fastest growing countries in the world.
Mr. Padmanabhan, also the finance minister calls it a strategic blueprint for equitable development. How is this made into a reality? After all, I mean, it's a document, and this needs more implementation, from the implementation side for it to actually be workable.
See, Mark, like I said earlier, the focus of this budget making has now become expenditure. And in that sense, the transparency they brought in, they took it one step further by pursuing welfare payments, which is where equity principle comes in, by targeting the spending. And how did they target the spending? They basically triangulated and identified the beneficiary using that individual's, her or him, Aadhaar, bank account, and the mobile, what they called the JAM Trinity.
Yes.
So this ensured that the money which was designed for the welfare spending, whether it was for food or any other subsidy, went directly to the bank account of the beneficiary. This may seem theoretically a very simple exercise, but it saved the government exchequer 3 lakh crore. Now that money saved is money earned.
Yes.
That money has been used in several other welfare measures. And let's not forget, the first COVID relief package that the government introduced was 1.70 lakh crore. So cumulatively, the government has saved double of that. So which has freed up its arms to spend more without creating an inflationary impact, without borrowing more. So which is why the budget balancing in the last decade has been brilliant.
Also, Mr. Padmanabhan, the finance minister spoke about, a single nodal agency for every centrally sponsored scheme. So obviously this helps in the implementation, but also how does it streamline expenditure? You talked about expenditures, but the expenditure too is targeted, isn't it, in a sense?
Oh, absolutely. And you see, the expenditure department in the Ministry of Finance has introduced a lot of rules in terms of ensuring accountability of spending. So there are constant monitoring, constant reviews. So some of the flagship programs have been executed based on this kind of close monitoring. Look at drinking water, the Ujjwala cooking gas, which has brought cooking gas to over 11 crore people in the families in this country, or the housing scheme. Every one of these schemes are constantly monitored because several of them are GPS enabled. So there is a real-time monitoring. And further, the union government has been encouraging the states also to step up capital spending. Mark, as you know, the capital spending creates a multiplier impact on the economy. If you spend 1 rupee in capital expenditure, it has the ability to grow 3 to 4 times of that much of national income. Whereas if you gave it as 1 rupee consumption, it rarely creates that kind of a magnified impact. So the states, to encourage the states to come on board on capital spending, they allowed them relaxed terms of borrowing, which enhanced the fiscal strength of states, created better balance sheets for them to spend, thereby, creating a cumulative impact both on the center and states to push growth in the economy. So in these various ways, expenditure has been streamlined and managed to ensure that there is accountability and bang for the buck.
Also, fiscal prudence is the cornerstone of good budgeting, and we've seen that. I mean, she's talked about transparency and fiscal prudence. So, how has this actually been achieved? And in short, despite the increase in expenses, like you did mention, COVID, there was a contingency expenses increase from 500 crore to 30,000 crore. So, I mean, there's a huge additional contingency put in, and that doesn't look well for fiscal prudence, isn't it?
Oh, yes, absolutely, Mark. I think the COVID impact and the subsequent economic shocks dented the fiscal math of the union government. But to its credit, like I said, they used this moment to clean up the books, come clean. So when there was an overshooting of the fiscal deficit due to a host of these factors, it was a one-time movement. Thereafter, the FM gave a glide path, and because the kind of policies that were adopted post-COVID, the economy recovered. So when the economy recovers, growth gains momentum, revenues also start growing. On the other side, if you've streamlined expenditure, made sure they're accountable, not overspending, minimizing wastage, I did tell you about the cumulative savings of 3 lakh crore. All of this adds up to very good fiscal math, and that we have seen. So despite these shocks, the finance minister, to her credit, has managed and committed to a glide path which is globally acceptable and is remarkable.
We leave it there. Thank you very much, Mr. Anil Padmanabhan, for helping us understand the finance minister's post on budget reforms. Now let's talk about our next story. Lithuania's president, Gitanas Nausėda, has claimed victory in a runoff for the country's presidential election on Sunday. The Baltic nation's electoral campaign was dominated by security concerns in the European Union and NATO member next door to Russia. After his victory, Nausėda told his supporters that he will continue working on the country's defense capabilities. And India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi congratulated Nausėda on being re-elected as the President of the Republic of Lithuania. In a social media post, he wrote, and I quote, "Congratulations to His Excellency Gitanas Nausėda on being re-elected as the President of the Republic of Lithuania. I look forward to working together to further strengthen the close cooperation between India and Lithuania." Still to come here on DD India News Hour. Large parts of India swelter under intense heat wave. And a bittersweet farewell for Javi Hernandez as Barcelona ends their season with a win. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Mark Lynn. Pakistan held funerals for 7 soldiers who were killed during exchanges of fire with militants in the last 2 days. According to the Pakistan Army, 5 Pakistani soldiers were gunned down with Islamist militants when their fighting took place in the country's northwest bordering Afghanistan early on Monday. Pakistani Army said that a total of 23 militants had been killed in the last 2 days in northwest Pakistan, close to the Afghan border. The India Meteorological Department has said that the country is likely to see above normal rainfall during the monsoon season between June and September. The southwest monsoon seasonal rainfall over the country as a whole is likely to be 106% of the long period average. The country will most likely see normal rainfall between 92 to 108% long average. during June 2024. The month will also see above normal monthly maximum temperatures over most parts of the country except many parts of southern peninsular India, where normal to below normal temperatures are also likely. India is experiencing severe heat wave conditions in the northern region. The IMD issued a red alert for North India. Severe heat wave conditions prevailed over most parts of Rajasthan, in parts of Punjab, Haryana, Chandigarh and Delhi, in some parts of Madhya Pradesh and in isolated pockets of Uttar Pradesh. Heat wave conditions prevailed in isolated pockets of Jammu and Kashmir as well. Himachal Pradesh, Gujarat. The highest maximum temperature was 49.4 degrees Celsius on Monday, recorded over West Rajasthan's Phalodi. Now, the highest maximum temperature of 48.8 degrees Celsius observed in the national capital was at Mungeshpur. So, Delhi is sizzling at 48.8 degrees Celsius. The Secretary in the Department of Promotion for Industry and Internal Trade, DPIIT, Rajesh Kumar Singh, said that the new World Intellectual Property Organization WIPO treaty is a step in the right direction, a step forward for India and the Global South. The Commerce Ministry official said that it will help in protecting traditional knowledge as well. He was speaking to DD India correspondent Ajay Mishra.
On the face of it, why the world need such a kind of treaty from the Indian point of view, sir?
For a long time, countries of the developed South, including India, have been asking WIPO to create at least minimum disclosure requirements when it comes to people making patent applications based on this type of indigenous genetic resources and associated traditional knowledge. You will recall that in the case of Haldi or in the case of Texmati, we had to take steps to get the patent annulled after the attempts had almost succeeded. This new instrument will ensure that we will have the ability to enforce mandatory disclosure requirements on patent applicants in almost 150 countries who've signed up to this. So it's a big step forward for the Global South and for India, which is, as you said, a very rich source of both genetic resources and traditional knowledge.
But sir, why did it take so long to convince the Western world on the preservation of these kind of traditional knowledge, and how did you and your team really succeeded in convincing them?
Obviously, for a long time, developed nations, Western nations in particular, put more of a premium on what they call innovation, rather than on, and did not give much credence to our claims about traditional knowledge, about traditional practices and genetic resources. I think over time, it took a long time, it took almost 20 years. It was in 2019 that Colombia first raised this issue. And thereafter, it's been, as I said, almost 20 years plus to convince various countries, particularly those of the developed world, that besides putting a premium on innovation, you should also give adequate credit and ensure benefit sharing to rich traditional communities who've provided traditional knowledge and genetic resources, which are sometimes thought to be surreptitiously appropriated by certain parties for commercial benefits.
It's really historic for India in terms of protecting the genetic resources and traditional knowledge. With camera person Radhakrishna Tiwari, Ajay Mishra, DD India, New Delhi.
You're watching DD India News Hour. Let's get you the sports news now. Barcelona ended the season with a 2-1 victory at Sevilla in La Liga on Sunday, making departing coach Javi Hernandez's farewell bittersweet after a trophyless season in which they finished 10 points behind the champions Real Madrid. The final game for Javi, who was sacked on Friday, leaves Barca second after a disappointing campaign in which they lost the Spanish Super Cup final to Real Madrid. They were also knocked out of the Copa del Rey by Atletico Bilbao in the quarterfinals and then eliminated in the Champions League by Paris Saint-Germain, also in the last 8.
I feel like we have done a very good job. The only thing that kept us from titles this season was 3 or 4 matches when luck was not on our side and we weren't able to make the hard work the team put in all season. That's that. The only thing we did badly this season is not winning a trophy. I think all the staff and all the players did really great work this season. I have to thank all of the players for the tremendous commitment and participation. They trained really well, and that's the feeling I'm living with. I think we have helped make them better footballers for the future. That's the legacy, and this is a very good generation. I think giving them more confidence is a big achievement.
Well, that's all we have in this edition of DD India News Hour. Let's know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X, formerly known as Twitter, and Instagram. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Mark Lynn. From all of us here in Delhi, thank you very much for watching DD India News Hour. Namaskar.